Hello. Welcome to the After Debate virtual party with my colleagues. I'm State Representative Joanna McClinton, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our after party. This is past some of our bedtime, so let me just go ahead and say it. We are a small snapshot of an incredible group of esteemed women that I work with in Harrisburg in the Pennsylvania legislature, and we are here tonight to talk about what it means to have a Black woman on that vice presidential stage. And we are all fired up. But more than our just talking, we want to hear from you. So with that, I'd like to welcome our hostess with the most, sincerely, Sarita. She's going to take it away, get us started to ensure we have a great engaging conversation and move it along so we can get some rest tonight and get ready to go vote for Biden Harris.
Listen, rest, I think, is the least of what we may need at this point in 2020. But let me just first start off by giving a very special thank you to you, State Rep Joanna McClinton, but also to all of the state representatives that are going to be joining us, Donna Johnson Bullock, Morgan Cephas, and Summer Lee. And if you don't know, okay, I'm from Pittsburgh. I am a transplant to Philly. I've been here for some time now. Okay, so I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. But nonetheless, it's an absolute pleasure to be joining you all for this vice presidential debate virtual after party discussion. Kind of feels like, I don't know about y'all, but I don't know if you got your tea, if you got your coffee, your mocktail, your cocktail, whatever it may be ready. You should probably get that. You should get that now. Because it's about to get real, okay? But this kind of feels like the VIP section of the VP debate. And so it should be noted, just even with this whole situation that we are in, is that this was the first and only general election vice presidential debate of 2020. So a post discussion is absolutely necessary, in my opinion. But I don't know. You all let me know how you're feeling in the comment section. Please, we are here to keep it all the way 100, to have honest conversation about this. So make sure, if you haven't already, you share this live stream. You let your folks know that this is happening. And let's just have some honest reflection on what we just experienced collectively. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I love when folks are all on the same page, whether it's at the party or in a conversation. And now perhaps more than ever, it's really important that is the case for this election, right? Because as it was mentioned, I believe now we're 26 days away from casting our votes. And folks have already started that process, and there's a lot around that. So yes, to this vice presidential debate virtual after party. I just want to lay out really quickly. We do have a few goals for our time together, because it's not a long time, but it's a good time. And that's what we're here to ensure, particularly and specifically for those who live in Philly and in the greater Philadelphia area and are tuned in right now. All right, so I want to lay out three things really quickly. Number one, we want to make sure that you hear points of views from elected officials, specifically Black women elected officials, about the 2020 U.S. vice presidential debate. Number two, that you get to give your take on the debate in this upcoming election. So I know the chat is already popping on the Facebook Live side. So if you have reflections, if you have questions, this is the time to drop those in so that we can make sure we work those into the conversation. It's not any of us talking at you. This is a conversation that we're holding together. So please do join us. If you're here for that, drop a emoji clap, a thumbs up, okay, whatever it may be for you, to let us know that you're here and ready for this moment. And then last but not least, and most importantly, the third point is to make sure that you understand the mail-in ballot process in Pennsylvania. Okay, in Pennsylvania specifically, especially when it comes to mail-in or absentee ballots. So now that I think, and I'm hoping we are on the same page about this very important virtual party, let's meet the very important Black women who are at the helm of this conversation and their districts. Okay, so I I respect each of these women um, for different reasons, um, and their leadership and their excellence and their vision and the way that they prioritize our community, but also their sacrifices. And so, if you know or identify with any of the elected officials that are about to introduce themselves, show love in the comment section. Let's again, this is a two-way conversation, not talking at you. We are in this with you. Okay. Show love to them. So with that said, I love for each state rep to share in your own words a little about who you are, your district, and one word to express your reaction to the debate, because we're fresh off of it in this moment, and I'm still digesting a lot of it, but I'm pretty settled. I'm pretty settled in it, and I want to hear where they're at with it. So let's start with Representative Donna Bullock. Let's kick this off. Let's get this thing going.
Thank you, Sarita. Welcome, everyone. I'm State Rep Donna Bullock. I represent parts of North and West Philadelphia. I apologize. I'm still kind of amped up. I was looking for my fly swatter in the middle of the debate. And as a Black mom, and I see some of the comments, a lot of those facial expressions look real familiar to me. I am excited to be a part of this conversation today. And it's close to bedtime, but we're going to get it in. And, many of the issues that she talked about, and I hope that we can talk about them in the short time that we have together. One word, that's my word.
That is a whole word, just FYI, in case anyone is wondering, that's a whole word, and you may hear that multiple times tonight. Don't question it. Just know that is what it is. Okay. So appreciate you, Representative Donna Bullock. Let's go to Representative Morgan Cephas, I believe, who is ready and queued up.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited about this after party. Yes, it may be late, but we all got our cup of coffee, not our cup of tea, but cup of coffee to keep the energy going. So thank you for having this conversation. And I am beyond excited to see this first Black woman to be able to take a stage like this and just to be able to articulate a vision, to speak about the facts. That is the one thing I love about attorneys, love about Representative Bullock and Representative McClinton, because they both are attorneys as well as Summer Lee, is that they don't just talk from passion, they actually point at facts and evidence. And that is what she was doing all night, reading him up and down, making the case for the Biden-Harris ticket. And the one word that I would say about our senator is she is ready on day one.
Gotcha.
That's a lot more than one word.
It's like a hashtag. Kamala, ready on day one, hashtag.
Listen,
gotcha.
we saw quite a bit of what played out with the moderator Susan, and we'll get into who she is and what she's about. But yeah, addressing the question and getting to the point, we're gonna do that really good. But then also it's after hours, so we'll see. We're gonna see how this plays out. But let's go ahead and welcome our next guest, Representative Summer Lee. Shout out to Pittsburgh. That's my hometown. I live, I bleed Pittsburgh and Philly. So Representative Summer Lee.
Good evening, y'all. Sarita, I can't believe that you didn't mention this when we were up in the chat. And I was talking about the fact that they got a Philly background, but it's okay. I feel solidarity now that I know you're here with me. Hi, everybody. I am the rep in the West. I'm the only one so far. So I'm the first Black rep from the Western Pennsylvania, and it is an honor to join my sister reps from Philadelphia, who I love and adore, and I love to hold it down for Pittsburgh with them. First of all, this is just an incredible moment to even be able to be here at the after party with y'all. I love a good let out. This is the let out. That was my favorite part of the party, was the let out. So I'm happy to be here with you all. That debate, man, I just think that we can get into just all that it means to have a Black woman on the stage. But the one thing that I just could not get past throughout the whole debate is just how infuriating your boy Pence was, y'all. So I think my one word is trigger.
Ooh, and with that, let's woosai. Okay. As I'm just here to help y'all, let's just process together. But we're all here, as far as I know and understand and respect, because of one woman that I know and respect, and that is Representative Joanna McClinton. So for folks who I don't know how, but maybe the case, are just meeting you for the first time. Number one, let them know you already know the rundown, who you are, what you do, why you do it, but also why this after hours conversation was important to you.
Yes, so thank you all for joining us, everyone watching, and thank you, Sarita, for hosting. So for me, I'm gonna start with the word. The word is side eye. Can we talk about that side eye? I saw so many comments already on those looks. Now, I was a young public defender not too long ago, and I'll tell you, a wonderful African-American woman judge told me that I was in big trouble because I was rolling my eyes. And I'm making faces. What faces am I making? Me making faces? But I saw Senator Harris making those faces because those faces were being made at those lies, the things that are not true. Those faces were being made because guess what the administration just did today? Got up from the table when so many families in our district, whether in Southwest Philly or whether all the way in Western Pennsylvania and Braddock, need more support through this pandemic. They got up from the table. So that side eye was about so much more than the lies they were giving out on the debate stage. Thank you. But beyond that, the fact that they are abandoning the people who are most in need in the middle of a pandemic. They're doing it again, and they're mansplaining. I mean, it's happened to me so many times in different contexts where you say something and then less than 5 minutes later, a wonderful man gets up and says the same thing. Side eye. Side eye is my word for tonight.
I'm seeing just in scanning the comments, folks are definitely agreeing with where a lot of you all are coming from. And I'm going to challenge some of our viewers here in the Facebook chat. If you could sum up your reaction to the debate, the U.S. 2020 vice presidential debate, if you could sum that up in an emoji, how would you sum it up? I'm just curious. Just let us know. We're going to continue with the conversation. I see the hashtag side eye. Y'all know we about this like that. Side eyes. You can catch that any and every way, each and every day. But I'm curious about the emoji side of it. So I do want to thank each and every one of you. If you are not familiar, this debate was featured by CNN. It was moderated by Susan Page, the Washington bureau chief for USA Today. She's a longtime member of the DC Press Corps. Senator Harris, in her own right, has made history as the first Black and South Asian woman to participate in a general election debate. For all of you, right, as Black women in office and in a battleground state, very curious to know, how did you feel seeing a Black woman on the VP debate stage tonight? And I'm going to take it a little further, knowing what you know about politics on the back end. How do you think she did and performed tonight? I'm looking at my view here. So let's go Joanna, Morgan, then we'll go Donna, and then we'll go Summer.
So I was very, very proud of Senator Harris tonight. I mean, so very proud. She has made history, her story, over and over again, whether you're talking about her election to DA in San Francisco, whether you're talking about her being the AG or going to the United States Senate. I mean, these are some major accomplishments. I had a good friend text me that said, I didn't know she was that heavy. I'm like, sis, you didn't know? So when you text me complaining about her a couple months ago, you hadn't checked the resume? Like, she is beyond credentialed, and she presented herself in a professional manner, a straightforward manner. But what I love the best was, I'm still speaking, Mr. Vice President. I am still speaking. Her being able to say that when we're always talked over, disrespected, talked down to, we don't know what we're talking about. She's as credentialed as he, some may argue more, regardless. The fact that she had to say that, I'm still talking.
I can only concur. When as state elected officials in the Pennsylvania General Assembly, as Black women, you immediately know as soon as you walk in those doors that you are a Black woman coming from an urban setting that doesn't necessarily have the leadership not leadership experience, but leadership, just being able to get up into leadership because of the amount of time that we've actually had access to the General Assembly. So when I see the senator, it immediately makes me think that when we are not at the table as Black women, we are oftentimes on the menu. And having the senator be at the table on this amazing stage with millions of viewers, being at the table to be able to dictate what policy agenda is, what revenue or resources will go into underserved communities, represents that a Black woman is now at the table on the highest level of government to be able to dictate the menu. And one of the amazing things that I saw throughout the debate was that she did not back down to the lies. She made sure that she corrected at every single point, things that were misconstrued, that were uninterpreted. And she refused to, again, be misled by any of his comments. And I think the most magical thing is when Black women show up to the table, when Black women show up to the conversation, we don't just bring ourselves, we bring the stories of the communities and the families that we represent. So when the senator has an opportunity to talk about Breonna Taylor, when she has the ability to talk about the issues like maternal mortality or frontline workers as Black women, we know that our issues will be carried seriously in the White House. So that is really what her conversation represented for me tonight.
Thank you. To my sister colleagues, yes, I want to echo all of that. An immense amount of pride. But to add to that comment, Morgan, not only do we need to come to that table and bring others with us, we need to shake that table up sometimes, right? And I'm all about shaking tables if I got to. And I think I related a lot to that. Unfortunately for me, even though she has this great resume, as Black women, we always have to prove ourselves to even be at the table. And we can, each and every one of us have amazing resumes, and that's what got us to the State House. But we can also point to 5 other male, particularly white male colleagues that can't even touch us. And that's the truth. And my sister Rep Joanna already put in the comments, but there's a statement I always like to tell. And there's some statistics. When Joanna and I was elected in 2015, there were 9 Black women in the state General Assembly. That is between the House and the Senate. 253 legislators, 9 of them looked like us on this screen. There were 13, come on y'all, 13 white guys named Mike, specifically. And through most of the 5 years that Joanna and I had been in office, that had remained consistent. We lose a mic, gain a mic, but we always stayed at 9 Black women. And what I look forward to is in November that we will see at least 2, maybe 3 Black women join us. And we will keep our numbers higher than the mics next year. And that's relevant because when we walk into the Capitol, there are times when men, white men in particular, ignore us, speak over us, take our ideals and present them as their own. Sometimes we have to get a little angry and we have to shake those tables to make sure our voices are heard. We have to make sure that we talk about issues like maternal health, Morgan, make sure we talk about issues like police reform, Summer. And sometimes we have to organize taking over the speaker's rostrum to make something happen in the House. And that is the work that Black women have done in the Capitol. All 9 of us together standing strong. And, seeing our sister Kamala Harris on that stage represents all of that passion, represents all of the expertise, the knowledge, the experience, and everything that we bring to the Pennsylvania Capitol, capitals across this country, and to the White House. And so I look forward to seeing her there.
Gotcha. All right. And of course, Representative, come through, Summer. Summer in the fog. Summer in the fog.
This is one of the few times where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say what I'm thinking. And listen, y'all, that does not happen.
never do that.
I know, right? I never do that. I know how to read a room, though. I'm here in a room with a lot of Black women. So let me start with that positive part, or really kind of the neutral. What my sister reps have been saying, and I think oftentimes we talk about how important diversity is. And oftentimes we'll have, and especially this comes from white men a lot, an attack on identity politics, and what people are calling identity politics, ignoring the fact that for, 250 years, we've had one identity and no one complained when it was that one identity. But now that there are a diverse array of them, now that we are seeing, Black women, Southeast Asian women, now that we're seeing queer folks, brown folks, indigenous folks, now that we're seeing all of these different people, stepping up and really seizing and reclaiming power, now we're seeing people kind of start to complain about those things. So I want to say how important it is that we have our identities there, because it's not just that we're Black women. It's not just that, some of us are Black women from Philly. Some of us are poor Black women. Some of us are queer Black women. We represent, and what we bring with us is an experience. And that experience is a qualification in and of itself. And we got to start with that, because as we're trying to get more sisters to run, we got to start to redefine what is a qualification and what we need when we're stepping up. So know, if you're a Black woman and you're thinking about running, if you're a Black femme or a Black trans person thinking about running, that the way you navigate society qualifies you. You bring something that someone else doesn't bring. You bring something that's lacking right now, whether it be in our state house or our city councils, but especially in Washington. You bring something that has never been seen there before. And that in and of itself is a start to how we're going to start to change this world, how we're going to start to reshape this society. So for that, I applaud where we're at. I applaud the fact that we have a Black woman there. I will also say that I dream of the day where we're not just resting all of our hopes and dreams on one Black woman, that the table is ours, that the table doesn't belong to someone else. We're not waiting for somebody else to get up off of a table. That's our table. We built that table. We own that table. And it's time that we reclaim that table. So I'm waiting for it. I'm living for the day where Senator Kamala Harris is not alone, where the 9 of us aren't alone, where there are Black women of a diverse spectrum, where we have leftist Black women, we have radical Black women, where we have, progressive Black women, where we're all represented there. And that's when I know that we're really going to start to shape this country differently. That's what this country is waiting for, is needing us. So that's where I am right now with that. I'm happy to see that first step, but we got so many more that we got to take. I did a good job talking about that.
I asked one question. I want it to be noted. I asked one question, and that's what y'all got off of one question. All of y'all viewing right now, that's what you got off of one question. And I see the chat popping right now. Okay. Just from each and every representative who has contributed to this conversation. Folks just saying it's truth. Folks who, and I tried to jot down as I'm doing multiple things. Alexis, I believe Alexis Lee, she said, if you let me finish, we can have a conversation, which we heard in that debate. There was Cassie who said it was the fly said it all. We'll get into that later. But I see y'all already ready with the shade. But so interestingly enough, in this moment, and being kind of this moderator of this conversation, a lot of our first intro, right, into these debates, it's through the moderator. It's through the tone that they set. And one thing I saw on social was that there was a very different tone and boundary that was maintained in this debate than the presidential debate. Did that make a difference for you? Do you think the tweaks that were implemented were respected and honored? And just like, what are your initial reflections on how this conversation was guided and moderated?
Can I suggest Summer goes first? She had an awesome comment.
I was about to say she was ready.
You know what? I feel like Mike Pence right now.
I saw your tweet. I saw it.
You know what? And that's exactly why I wanted to go first. And it really goes back to my word, trigger. Because when I watched that, listen, no shade to Susan. I don't know Susan. I don't think that Susan did a great job. I also don't know that Susan could have done a great job. Aside from having the ability to cut a mic, having the ability to stand up and walk out, that's what was needed there. I think that what we saw from that debate, and this is what my tweet was, is really showing how some men, particularly white men of a certain social milieu, truly feel like rules don't apply to them. They feel like they don't have to be respectful. They don't have to show decorum. They don't have to be kind or polite. They don't have to, even adhere to the rules, the social rules that they've created for themselves. And that's a metaphor for so much more going on in our society. It's something that we see every day in Harrisburg when we're there. We see how white men set rules and then don't follow them, but they set the rules for you to follow. And that's what we saw in that debate. And for that reason, I was just so disappointed because here we have, and I think that everyone on the screen right now, like everyone in this comment section, we've all experienced it, where here you are, a Black woman, overqualified. You are somebody who has expertise. You're coming with facts and logic. You're coming trying to be polite and civil, but what you're met with is disdain, contempt. And I don't know how you can moderate that, but I do think that we need to talk about how in society we need to stop giving white men the mic. If they're going to act that way, if they're going to keep behaving that way, it's time to start cutting mics.
All right, so this chat is popping right now. We're gonna let that marinate for folks who, because I see folks on it, all of that. Let's go to Representative McClinton. Then we'll do Representative Bullock, and then Representative Cephas. We coming through, and I'm doing it based off of how I'm seeing y'all, quite frankly and honestly and transparently.
I had to mute because, of course, they started watching it in the room next to me. Like, they're so respectful. I love my family.
My family's watching this. I can see them in the chat.
Well, I mean, I can hear it in the next room, so I had to mute my microphone. But we see this happen on the floor of the House all of the time. Your amendment is ruled out of order. What you're trying to say is not germane. What you're trying to do to a bill is not appropriate, and you're talked over. You're told that you don't know what you're saying. I mean, and I'm not making this up. This is actual what occurred when you disagree with a strong conservative right-wing Republican white male. This is what has happened to us at the microphone, trying to speak, trying to say, well, this is what this budget should be about. We're not talking about minimum wage. Who are you talking to like that? So to see the senator experience that same disrespect that we experienced in Harrisburg, it was like, okay, it's time for the side eye. It's time for the Mr. Vice President, I'm still speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I concur with that. I mean, I recall being at a committee hearing in Harrisburg, and talking about voting reform, election reform, and repeatedly being cut off by the Republican chairman, being told that I was out of order, that I couldn't speak about how we protect elections and protect voter rights in Black and Brown communities when they were alleging fraud in those communities at the hearing, when I wasn't allowed to question the person that was testifying before the committee, and being cut off because, quite frankly, those lawyering skills got to work and I had her on the ropes. And so we've seen this over and over in Harrisburg. I remember once speaking again about election reform when we were debating the straight ticket voting here in Pennsylvania. And afterwards, one of our colleagues got up and said, why do you have to make everything so racial? So, and that came from a white woman. But nonetheless, we see these comments over and over again. And then when our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are out of order, when they are disrespectful, when they don't respect the institution or decorum, they're given more rope to do that. They're given more, let's talk about masks, right? You don't respect our own health and safety. Sister Rep. Joanna McClinton just posted her face with her mask. We've had our colleagues on the House floor not wearing a mask. Before today's debate, Pence wanted to argue about a plexiglass on the stage just to be respectful of somebody else's health, and you're putting somebody else at risk. There is no respect for other folks, particularly for Black women, when it comes to politics. And so it's we are going to stand with our sister for this ride all the way to November and after November, because trust, she will continue to be attacked if and when we win this election in November.
Got you. And we're about to get to Representative Cephas. I just need to highlight really quickly the comments, just even around that level of respect, and more so about the facial situation. How you do or do not respond to the face. I'm already seeing the memes of Senator Harris, just like, when it comes up. And I think that's really important, because I'm seeing two different responses. One where it's like you have to hold your face and you have to stay focused on what needs to get addressed, and other comments that are like, you got to show it and say it for what it is. And I think that's even something that we're still working out. So just wanted to bring some attention to that. But Representative Cephas, floor is all yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just wrap this up with a bow. And I know we're constantly talking about our experiences in the political space, our experiences in the General Assembly while we're on the floor, or when we're in caucus, or when we are sitting in committee. We are constantly being interrupted, constantly being second guessed. And but one of the things that's critical is that this is not just happening in this space. I mean, this happens across society to Black women. I mean, we've heard Malcolm X constantly. The quote is constantly being used, and thank God it's being elevated now to where the Black woman is the most disrespected member of society. And that still goes on to this day, decades and decades later. So, I mean, we've made significant progress, but again, we in various fields are constantly being talked over, constantly being second guessed. When you think of in our healthcare systems where Black women aren't able to even protect their own bodies without being corrected by a white male doctor, or when you think of being in our education system, being able to access opportunity, constantly being talked over. When you think about the C-suite, constantly not even being considered to even have a seat at the table. So this is a reality that exists beyond politics, a reality that exists beyond being in the legislature. It is from the school board to the White House, where Black women are constantly being disrespected and overtalked. And I think, this is not a new thing for this administration. We know that they do not follow rules. We know that they constantly bend reality to their own advantage point. Not only did you see that in the debate with the president, but I really expected I don't know why I expected this, that the actual vice president would actually have a little bit more of decorum. So not only was he disrespecting our senator, but thank God she was able to make a face and shut him up. But he was also disrespectful to the moderator, to the point where he was utterly disregarding, her instructions that they agreed to, which is just something that we can expect after the election season. I mean, the fact that they're already lining up lawsuits to challenge the election just reinforces my colleague's point, Summer Lee, that unfortunately, white men, I'm not going to say all white men because, I don't believe in absolutes, but that there is a segment of society that believes in the reality that things should bend to their will. And luckily, we have the senator at the table that's not going to back down and has the grit, has the experience, and most importantly, has the facts. Because you can come up with your own reality, but you can't compete with the facts. And I think that really represents all that she gave in the face that she made.
Got you. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And I know we're looking to keep this around 30 minutes. So we're coming up on time. I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface of what's happening in here. So Representative McClinton, definitely want to, check in with you to make sure, check in with each of you in respect for your time. I know our folks in the comment section, they're rolling. They seem like they're here for it. And if you are here for the conversation, feel free to give us a thumbs up. But I know all of these women are hard at work, and sleep is deserved for everyone. But I want to check in, get a feel. Is everyone okay to keep with the flow? If you have to hop off, I completely understand. Okay, cool. So we rolling in. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna be honest, right? One of the things that I noticed with both candidates, current vice president and candidate elect, is that they swerved a little bit around some questions. They each did that in their own way, and of course, that's part of politics. That just comes with the territory. And there was a lot that was covered. If you did not get a chance to see the debate, just know this debate covered quite a bit, and that ranged from COVID-19, right, from the pandemic and this administration's handling of it, to what has been dubbed the super spreader event, the fundraising event that recently happened and resulted in all of those headlines that you saw about folks in Trump's administration, and largely the Republican Party, who contracted COVID-19. There was also the role of the vice president, and to even have that conversation with my 11, soon to be 12-year-old daughter about, like, what does the vice president actually do? That it encompassed that, taxes, economy, climate change, the U.S.'s relationship with China, our global status, how we're being perceived. I mean, it really, that's one thing I can say and do appreciate, was that it did seem a bit more civil than whatever that first debate was supposed to be, that first presidential debate was supposed to be. Were there any topics in particular for each of you, or at least I'll say one topic for each of you that really stood out and amplified or highlighted the differences in each candidate's position and how they would show up as a vice president? And let's start with Donna. We'll go to then Joanna, Summer, and then on to Morgan.
All right. For me, it was where I think her strongest area is around criminal justice reform. You know, this is where I believe Senator Harris knocked it out of the ballpark. She didn't waver. She answered the question directly. And then when she also talked about the conversation, though not directly, about preparing for a presidential disability and laying out her record as a DA, or her record as an attorney general, and her record as a senator, showing that experience that she has, that she's ready, as Morgan says, ready on day one. But particularly, she had a great handle on the issues around police reform and criminal justice, talking about the issues right now that matters to us as Black women when it comes to Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. She hit that right out the ballpark. And you know, when we talk about the fact that these two men, Trump and Biden, I believe are the two oldest candidates for president in our country's history, we have to have a frank conversation about who is on their team and ready to step in, should that time come during their term and their term of service. And I have a lot of trust in Senator Harris's capability to step in that place.
Gotcha. And Representative McClinton?
So for me, it was two main issues. I know that she did not directly answer. Goodness, I love my mom. About the courts. However, it's because she does not know. She can't predict, who will be nominated, when they'll be nominated, what happens in the Senate elections, whether or not the Democrats take the majority and are able to get judges on the courts, specifically, of the late group, notorious RBG. She can't see into the future. There is not a crystal ball, but I loved the history story that she told, taking us back even to Abraham Lincoln, saying, we just allow for there to be another spot filled when the American people are about to decide who they want to lead this nation, which party, which values. And so many have said, Biden and Harris, that the soul of our nation is on the line election. And so I think about the courts, because what happens at the courts, that is where we either are accessing justice or we are denied justice. And from everything about what we can do with our bodies to whether or not we're able to get into universities that have histories of discrimination, and whether or not they're able to consider that I grew up in Southwest Philly, single parent home, or whether that's no longer a factor, they can consider. I mean, the courts make these decisions. So it's important to know that when we think about what's on the ballot, the courts are now entirely on the ballot. She cannot predict who will get nominated, who will get confirmed, and the quote unquote packing of the courts. But we know that that is something that's on the ballot. And while she doesn't have a direct answer, he did answer it and say, let the people vote. 44 states are doing early voting now. How are they going to fill a vacancy when 44 states are choosing who they want to be the leader of this country? It's just not appropriate and not fair. And my family, thank you for turning the TV volume down.
Shout out, first of all, no, shout out to the village, okay? Because our village is showing up in our households. Some of our village is a little more quiet. Some of ours is like, no, we hear you.
Mama McClain said I was going ahead of Donna. She hadn't finished talking. There's a delay. There is a delay. She hasn't finished talking.
Let her be great.
Look at channel 6. You can play this back.
Thank you, Mama McClinton. She said, let me be great, Joanna.
That's it. And to all our folks who are in the chat, y'all are, we're going to let y'all be great. If you're tuned into this, right, and you haven't scrolled through the comment section, please scroll through the comment section, see what folks are saying. Right. Because I think that's a beautiful thing about a debate, is that you get to see perspectives, especially when we're talking post-debate discussions or virtual after parties like what we're having right here. You get to see other perspectives. And I just, as a freelance journalist, I will never assume that just because you look like us or just because you present in the same party or not, that you think like everyone else does. So please do take advantage of the opportunity to see, whatever the perspectives may be in the chat and respond as such. But summer, let's get to it.
Yeah, I'll offer another perspective. But first, though, let me shout out Mama Lee, Shelda, who was sitting upstairs, because we have this down pat, right? When it's time for me to get onto something, she goes upstairs. We've really been working out this through the Rona. We're doing good. Let me just say, I want to dispute something, right? Because I don't think that it is just a part of the package with politics that you don't got to answer a question. No, no. And I think that the one thing that we need to start doing is we need to start adjusting our expectations of the people who are serving us and who are elected, right? So that might mean that we need to adjust and maybe not put things on them. We need to learn how things, what the job is, but also for the elected, they need to understand that if somebody asks you a question, you got to answer the question. I'm a neophyte in politics, but I've done like 4 debates. And in all 4 of those debates, I made a promise to myself that if I didn't know the answer to a question, I would just say I didn't know the answer to a question. And there are other ways of doing that too. You can say that very quickly and then you can answer something tangentially related. There are different ways that you can do it. What I think is the most disrespectful thing in the world is to pretend that somebody didn't ask you a question and just do whatever you want to do. So on that front, I think it was as disappointing as a lot of debates can be. And I do recognize that those 2-minute timelines are no joke. When you have 2 minutes to answer a question and you don't know if you're going to get another shot at it, it's like Hamilton, y'all. I'm not throwing away my shot. You got to say everything you got to say. So it can be really tricky, and I do get that. I'm going to say that the thing that stood out most to me is that there weren't great answers to some things. And especially on climate change for me, as somebody who is I believe, a forced climate activist. I was forced into, kind of being an environmental justice advocate because of environmental racism. When I think about how Black and brown folks are most likely to live by an environmental justice hazard, how 34% of the kids in my district have asthma, how we have higher rates of COPD and cancer and Black maternal mortality rate, and how all of those are environmental factors. The fact that we can't get Democrats or Republicans to talk about climate change in a realistic way because we're so afraid of upsetting somebody, we're so afraid of dealing with the difficult decisions that we have in front of us. We are paid, some of us, or elected to come up with difficult questions, to answer difficult questions, to come up with difficult plans, and to put those into place. And that's what we need to do with climate change. So I think that they both failed with that. And that was so painfully obvious. He mentioned the Green New Deal 1,000 times. And instead of the Democrats, the Biden campaign always kind of obfuscating there, embrace what you embrace. Let's talk about, you can't just say, I believe in science and then say, but jobs, we can't continue to pretend that jobs and health are averse, that they are oppositional. They're not. We need to have both. We can't have both. And it's incumbent upon us to build that. I will also say that their criminal justice reform questions aren't that great either. And we know, and I won't sit here and gaslight Black folks, we know that all of their records are bad on criminal justice, on mass incarceration, on police violence. They're not great. They're not up to snuff. We have to hold them more accountable for that. So I actually did not like those questions. I think that this is a moment that Biden and Kamala Harris can rise to, and we need them to rise to this moment. We need them to be innovative. We need them to be real with Black and brown folks about systemic racism, and that's the challenge. And I'm not gonna let up on that challenge just because we got vote for him.
Got you. No, and I want to say I definitely appreciate that. And two things coming from Pittsburgh and knowing our history as it relates to the environment that our folks have had to live through, especially we're known as the Steel City. And that comes with a lot of back history, right? When we're talking about the steel mills, when we're talking about pollution of our air, of our living, our standard of living, and so many other things. Like there's a deeper level of, I think, passion and appreciation, not that it's not elsewhere in the country or in the state, but I know for Pittsburgh in particular, it just hits a little deeper. And if you don't know the backstory, go ahead and Google Pittsburgh, like, I don't know what, 1930s, maybe, like, just Google Pittsburgh steel mill era, and you'll see the pictures of literally what Pittsburgh, an entire city, looked like when the steel mills were in full force, and you just saw smog. You just saw this smoke everywhere. That plays a part, I think, and folks' value of climate change and what science, what value science is what value is being placed on science and the relevancy of it. There's also that criminal justice factor, which I do want us to get into, and I think was definitely some light shed that I did plan to ask you all about. And that is there any question that you would have asked that was not asked tonight? And so we'll get to that, but I want to make sure Representative Cephas gets a chance to answer this question. Wait, you on mute, girl? Come on. There you go.
My bad. I'm trying to work it out. It's late. It's late. I mean, one thing that I would critique about tonight's answers is when the senator, and I'm just going to go ahead and blame it on, they didn't allow her enough time to talk about it, so that's how she got out of it. But really being able to explain and articulate your history as a prosecutor in California. I feel like we know there's been constant conversations about different segments of our community not being able to support the Biden-Harris ticket because of, the crime bill, or because of, again, her prosecutory record in California. And I think the ticket over the next several weeks is really going to have to articulate that, especially when it comes to African-American men, Black men. And if the campaign doesn't take a hardcore stance or have a hardcore conversation about challenges or missteps in their record in the past and how they are realistically going to correct those missteps and be bolder in their vision to address things like criminal justice reform, police reform, then we could potentially see low turnout. And as we all know, that is just unacceptable. And I think the beauty of having our experience with our previous president, Barack Obama, as much as he was a statement for the Black community, there also are critiques. And I think this is a time right now where Black and brown communities can have honest conversations about those critiques, but honest conversations about a vision forward that, creates a different pathway, but a pathway that actually has real outcomes and that has real impact on our community. So always just encourage, let's have an honest conversation how we need to reimagine and re-envision America. And I think this is the time. This is the conversation so many people are having, either in the barbershops and the beauty salons. They're asking the hard questions. What is 4 years of the Biden-Harris ticket going to mean to me after 4 years versus what they're experiencing with Trump? So I think we need to take this as Democrats as an opportunity to have those honest conversations, again, about missteps, opportunities that we didn't take advantage of, and what we're going to do different moving forward. But the thing that most resonated with me was the conversation about our economy. As we all know, there are so many communities, so many families that are just frightened about what is it going to look like past COVID-19. I mean, this administration already talked about there being record numbers of unemployment, the Black community having the lowest unemployment numbers since he doesn't understand history, so he just compares it to whatever president that just comes to mind. But when we talk about the lowest levels of unemployment, it doesn't mean to have, a life that is sustainable when you're working 4 or 5 jobs and you're marked down as the individual that is unemployed. Or think about the individuals that, whose economies have been decimated in their counties or in their municipalities that are no longer looking for work. He's not talking about those numbers. So I think it's going to be critical for our ticket, the Biden-Harris ticket, to be able to articulate an economic vision that impacts the ground up, rather than going to Wall Street and giving tax breaks. I mean, one of the things that is a drastic difference is when you saw small businesses trying to access economic opportunity or resources through the COVID-19 money. It is obvious that this administration doesn't understand our needs when they send all of the dollars through banks, when we know historically banks don't lend to Black and brown communities, whether it be through a mortgage or whether it be through small business loans, or God forbid, we talk about accessing capital. So I think, that is the staunch difference. That is the staunch.
I'm about to say, now, you didn't open up a whole.
I mean, the thing is, like, Black women are the population that has record numbers and becoming entrepreneurs, opening their own businesses, that are accessing higher education. So needing access to affordable higher education is going to be critical. Affordable childcare. I mean, all of these economic issues are bread and butter, kitchen table cabinet issues. And this administration just doesn't get it. And I think the senator really represents and reflects the realities and experiences of Black and brown communities, not just in Philadelphia, where we have a booming economy that doesn't necessarily connect to the neighborhoods up in West Philly and maybe Southwest.
And North, because North checking in here, just FYI. North, yes.
Parts of with an F, North.
Parts of especially to your point, out in Pittsburgh, or think of our rural counties. So it becomes a larger conversation as to how we climb out of COVID-19 through economics. And I just don't think that this administration has the vision to be able to do that. I mean, they've already proven it by the way that they dispersed COVID-19 dollars.
Listen, you just gave a comprehensive. There's a lot of levels to what you just offered, right? When I was listening to this debate, and being from Pittsburgh, having lived in Delaware, being planted in North now for more than 10 years at this point, I was really looking for how each candidate, their message would potentially resonate with the folks I know, right? And I think that's what across the country, anyone who was tuned in, right? We're looking to see how the message delivered would resonate with them and with their community. When you look at their delivery, if you had to decide, who do you think specifically resonated with the Black community? And I'm talking about more in terms of strategy, and more in terms of even educating folks, because I think that's something that's really important right now. Is that, like, and I've been doing this even on my own social media feed with Instagram and stuff, is just even breaking down, like when we're talking about Supreme Court picks and nominations and like, how does that work? Like really understanding our system, our democratic system. Like, yeah, we learned a little bit about that in school, in grade school. If you went to college, you probably took a few courses on that, barely passed, maybe passed, who knows, maybe you excelled. But in terms of like just general understanding of it, I don't think that that's something that the first presidential election afforded us. I do think we got more of that in this vice presidential election, of like more of a background and an understanding of how this system works. That's just, again, my perception of it. But for you all, do you feel like any one candidate excelled in that way?
I would differ, because I think that there was much left to be desired. I was looking for more facts from both candidates, and I didn't get that. I was hoping, but I have a lot of respect for my sister reps here, because I think we all do a great job of trying to talk to our constituents and explain things to our constituents and engage our constituents in ways that may not have been done by our predecessors or by other elected officials. I was wishing we had more of that. In preparation for today, I looked at some other debates from the primaries, and there was a time where Senator Harris was talking about the experiences of Black women, as a Black woman understanding maternal mortality, as a Black woman, understanding what it means to send your children to underperforming schools, as a Black woman. And I talk a lot about, and I think many of us feel as a mother, the fear that you have when you send your child at the door, that they may be met with gun violence or even aggressive police. The fears that you have as a Black woman when you go to your doctors and they're not listening to you. But also as Black women who are out there working on the front lines, we are more than likely to be the frontline essential workers. Where are you on these issues? Where have you been and where are you today? And I don't think those questions were answered tonight for me. I don't think that conversation happened, other than when she ran down her resume and said she was the first Black woman to do this and the first Black woman to do that. Other than that, and maybe the comments towards the end around racism in our country, there wasn't this conversation about what it means to live and experience in this country as Black women. How do we address gun violence in our communities? How do we address health disparities in our communities? How do we address economic disparities in our communities and uplift the Black woman? Because what I do know is if we get it right for Black women, if we get it right for those who are ignored the most, our whole entire country benefits from that. It means we get it right for everybody. I wish we had heard more of how we can do that in more detailed and more factual explanation of that, of the plan. I kept hearing Biden has a plan, but not quite hearing the details of that plan.
Gotcha. Before Rep Lee jumps in, before you jump in, I think I would
She's
just
ready.
add,
She ready.
it would be, I know she's ready. I gotta get in. I think it would be amazing if they flipped the format of these debates. So rather than having a CNN commentator, a Fox News commentator who are really focused on ratings, focused on people that even can afford to have cable to get those channels, those topics that, inflate ratings. I think that is the perception and that is the life experiences that they're coming to the table with. Like what sells, what topics are quote unquote hot button issues on the national landscape versus what's the hot button issue in the barbershop, at the beauty salon, at the subway, at the water cooler. And I think the way you potentially switch it up is by having a town hall. I've seen that, and I'm not sure if they're going to consider that for any of the future debates, but you need to have people that actually live in communities, that actually are in neighborhoods that are going through the experience of COVID-19 at those debates, asking those hard questions. I mean, there's a significant number of legislators that, say this quote, I never know who to attribute to. So if anybody knows, let me know so I can, acknowledge them. But the closest people that should be closest to power are the people that are closest to the problem.
I
And
thought he was going to say that the fly that's closest to the hair is. I thought he was going to go in that direction.
That's a different question in the
My
different
bad.
segment.
Go ahead.
But seriously, the people closest to the power should be closest to the problem because they understand the magnitude of what's happening today. And I'll close on this. One of the stark examples of that is the fact that you had our president not believe in COVID-19, call it a hoax, didn't warn people, doesn't believe in, wearing masks or anybody wearing masks around them, was able to take advantage of taxpayer health care. Taxpayer healthcare that we are coming out of our pockets for, where we have communities like mine that we just got a testing site center. It's those thoughts differences and those realities is why I believe that we need to flip this entire debate conversation. We, again, don't need commentators from these news stations selling, ratings to be asking the hardcore questions, to be able to get into places where people are having day-to-day conversations.
And before summer goes,
I was about to say
before summer goes,
want to jump in here because
we're going to talk about this.
We're going to talk about it, but I just want to say what I would have liked is not just a different type of structure, but just time to be able to explain a plan. I mean, I feel you that there were not details shared about the plan for the economic recovery or the type of rapid testing that we all need. We don't need to wait 7 days to know if we have COVID-19. Like, you do need to be able to get a quick result. And who has access to that? Joining with Representative Cephas, the president. The president's able to know the same day. The NFL folks, the people living in the bubble in the finals right now, they have access to these things. But the average person out here on 60th Street, they don't have access to that. More importantly, the people who live in my neighborhood, the ones who are not compelled to vote every 6 months, they need to have an opportunity to hear from these candidates. I was on a Zoom not too long ago with returning citizens who are working for the city, all of them under 21 years old. And they said, no disrespect, Ms. McClinton, but we want Biden on this screen. And I said, well, no disrespect is taken. I'm Joanna McClinton. I'm not him. I know you want him on the screen. You're stuck with me because you called my office and booked this. But seriously, in all seriousness, our undecided voters and people who do not routinely vote, they do need to be compelled. And it's going to take details and plans and explanations as to how it trickles down to those of us where we are, who are not in the Capitol, who are not in the White House, who are not up on the Hill. We need to understand that that plan will be affecting all of us. I would have loved to hear that there will be a big boost in the minimum wage for these essential workers. I did hear that they have to be paid like they're essential, that they are not sacrificial lambs. Thank you for that, Senator Harris. And with maybe 10 more seconds, I could have also heard that there's a serious plan to raise the minimum wage so people are not fighting for their lives anymore, making $7.50 in Philadelphia, working at a restaurant, trying to take care of your children. It's unacceptable in 2020. Summer?
Got you. So we're about to get to Representative Summer. I just want to put in a real quick oop. Okay, y'all. We want to also make sure that we get some of your questions answered, because we just need to make sure we save space in this moment to recognize that we have 4 dynamic Black women who are also elected officials across the state of Pennsylvania, which is a battleground state, who it's 11:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time around here, who are showing up and ready to engage in conversation and want to hear from you, and want to know, where you're at with it. So if you have any questions for them, go ahead in the chat, drop those. Also, if you haven't already, start a watch party, share the link. I mean, let's turn this party up a little bit, even though we're going to be winding down soon. If we can still get that engagement going, and appreciate all of you for doing that and then some. And with that said, because I know sis about to bring it, Representative Summer Lee, go ahead.
Reclaiming my time. I would just like to say you all were all Mike Pence to me just now. And if I had an emoji fly, I would drop it on all of y'all heads. But that's okay. I would like to say the question is do we believe that anybody who do we believe appealed to Black folks more in this debate, right? And I want to go.
Better job.
My sister reps were getting to that, and my sister rep Donna said it outright. No, I don't believe that anyone did. And here's my why, right? Miss McCall in the comment section said that the thing is that they need more time. Like the debates are just not set up for that, and that's very true. I agree with that. Which is why your campaign, everything you do on your campaign, is your opportunity to appeal to people. Debates are just the little situation where you can come in and you can do a zinger. That's where you get your sound bite. That's where you get your little video clip. That's not the time for you to make your appeal. My argument and my complaint from the beginning is that if we are looking at Black voters, Black women, especially the ones who are not already frequent voters, we are not getting a message from either party, from any of these candidates, about what anybody is going to fundamentally do to change, to better the lives of Black and brown folks. But also, what are they going to do to engage them differently? Because that's the real problem. When we're thinking about how outreach goes to Black voters, we all know it. Everybody on this chat knows it. Where do they go, y'all? Just type it in the church. Where they go? They go to church, y'all. They go to the church every single time, as if all Black people are met at a church. They talk to all Black people as if they are all the same generation, as if they are all the same demographic, the same socioeconomic status, background. What I always argue is that Black people, Black voters are just as diverse as any other, but we can't get to our secondary and our tertiary needs because we have to be concerned about the fundamental thing that we're dealing with: systemic racism, inequality, the income gap, healthcare. At the end of the day, all voters, all people, whether you're a voter or not, we want the same things. We want free education. I'm gonna say it, free education. We want healthcare. We want affordable healthcare at the point of service. We want to be able, if we get COVID-19, to go to the hospital and get treated well, and then not be overcome with medical debt. We want to be able to send our kids to college and not be overcome with student loan debt. We want to be able to live in an environment where we're not choking, where we don't have water that's poisonous. Flint still doesn't have water. I just wanted to throw that out there. We want to be able to walk our streets and knowing that we're not being over-policed. We want to know that in the land of the free, prison population, right? We have the largest prison population per capita in the world. Philadelphia has one of the largest in the country, which is the largest in the world. And it's the most equitable system. Black and brown voters want to hear all those things. They want to know that their kid is going to get a good education, irrespective of their zip code, irrespective of our socioeconomic status. We want to know that we're going to get jobs, that we're not going to be discriminated. We want to know that our income is going to be higher than $725, because you know what? The economies of our communities might not be drugs, might not be guns. If we had access to jobs, if we had access to innovation, if we had infrastructure, if we were putting money into infrastructure on the front end, that's the thing that everybody wants. And no presidential candidate wants to say it. Nobody wants to say it. Black people want the basic right to exist freely, to exist well, to thrive, not just survive. And that's what we're missing. That's what we miss in all of these debates. That's what we miss when campaigns equivocate. And it's a very simple message. And it sells everywhere. And I think that our challenge is how do we convince candidates that they need to invest in Black communities the same way that they invest in white, middle class, Midwestern men, right? Because if we are putting the same money into those swing voters as we do Black swing voters, right? The Black voter who may be swing, but Democrat to non-voter, because the thing is, we're not going to Republicans, right? That's why everybody who said that Kamala won that one is true, right? Because Mike Pence can't win us. Donald Trump can't win us. The Republicans can't win us. But that doesn't mean that the Democrats don't got to show up to the game. That doesn't mean that they don't got to put their jersey on. And what we're saying is it's time that they put their jersey on. So invest in us. Invest in us. Organize in our communities. Invest in Black women candidacies. I was the only incumbent to not be endorsed by the Democratic Party, but I'm also the only Black one and the only Black woman. The only Black woman. Invest in our candidacies because we are the ones who keep you afloat. You can't keep saying that we are the ones who form the base of the party, but then keep justifying why there are not more Black women candidacies and there are not more Black women senators, why there are not more Black women congresswomen, why there are not more Black women state reps. Zero was the number for a lot of those. They can't keep justifying that. They can't keep justifying the fact that Black voters are just going to vote and we don't have to put any dollars into your community. But we're also just we're going to put the money that we should give to you to white voters who are swing voters who we know are going for Trump, right? They're going to go and fight for the 5 white men who are going to change from Trump the Democrat to the Democrat instead of the thousands the thousands and millions of Black voters who are 18 years old or 30 years old or a leftist or a progressive or somebody who just feels like the system ain't working for them. They're not going to fight for them. Fight for us. Fight for us like we've been fighting for y'all for too long. That's what I got.
You know, you got to breathe. Now, I need you to breathe.
Representative Clinton said we're bringing Summer on to add some spice.
I've been holding
I'm going to say, wait a minute. Now, Representative McClinton, you're going to have to set up something else now, because we got to hold some other space here, because there's some deeper issues and realities that I think every single one of you have brought to the forefront. And that's why this kind of conversation and this kind of space is so important, because you're not going to get all of this in a debate, right? Like, that's just realistically impossible, especially when even realizing that the vice presidential candidates are only given, at least at this point, one debate. That's it, right? So that even doesn't give us a lot or a real opportunity to get to know them and how they show up and represent who they're on the ticket with. But I did open up the floor for some questions from our folks who are viewing and sharing. And I just want y'all to know, on the back end, the team is like clapping y'all up. And by y'all, I mean everybody in the chat room right now, for just how you're engaging and sharing and getting the word out. So we really do appreciate, love you, all of that, and so much more. Really briefly, I want to try to get to two questions that I saw particularly come up after I made that announcement about the fact that we were looking for some questions. And so I want to shout out Natalie. She said, do you think either candidate addressed this very pressing issue? How do we get our federal leaders to address this issue? Talking about chokeholds is not enough, and marijuana is not enough. And when she says this issue, I believe she's referring to criminal justice reform. And so on a screen, shout out to our folks doing what they do, how y'all do it on the production side. Very briefly, can we get your take, each of you, and of course, Representative McClinton, we'll start with you, as I know Natalie specifically mentioned you, but definitely want to get each of your thoughts on that. And I want to make sure we have time to get to our second question as well that came in. Y'all, I'm not promising that we can get third and fourth questions in, but go on and slide them in and we see what we can do.
We'll see what we can do. Thank you so much. So that is an excellent question, Natalie. It has to be at the top of the agenda. There was not an at length discussion at all on criminal justice reform tonight. Once again, to Morgan's point, who comes up with the questions and decides what issues will be talked about in that short time frame. They needed a real conversation about it. We needed to talk about how the fact that we do have still the instances of mass incarceration. Summer is right that Philadelphia leads the nation in the number of juvenile lifers without parole in state prison. But not only that, when you look on the federal level, and we've all got friends, I've got friends from high school who knows what happened, because I don't have all the details, but I do know they got large amounts of federal prison time. And that is not right. That is not fair. We know there are instances where people need to be off of our streets because, as somebody else was saying, we want to be safe in our community. And the quota judge I was in front of years ago, some people show us they don't want to live out here with the rest of us. They don't want to abide by the norms. But there are also some over-policing and some heavy-handed sentencing going down, and sentencing structures and guidelines that are just not fair and disproportionately affect poor people of every color. If we're honest, every color is affected by that. And that is not justice at all. That is not justice. That is not fair. That is not the opportunity to have your voice heard and be in court and know you're going to have a good outcome. Even when you look at over the 100 district judges that the president appointed, what type of decisions do you think they're making? I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave that at that.
So, I'll tell you what. I wanna leave that one there, because the next question is really aimed at all of you. Or I shouldn't say aimed. I don't even like that right now. Oh Lord, that's too much. But it's presented to all of you. And so this comes from Kiwana. And this is our final question that we'll be able to take from our viewers, and just shout out to each and every one of you for engaging in this discussion. Before we wrap, do know we're going to be doing shameless plugs so that you can follow each and every one of our state representatives that are here and on this, in this after party, this VIP for the VP virtual party. Kiwana said, what have each of you put in place to support African-American female breadwinners during these times of uncertainty? And how will your actions help turn out the African-American female vote in this upcoming election? I'm gonna run it back real quick. What have each of you put in place to support African-American female breadwinners during this time of uncertainty? And how will your actions help turn out the African-American female vote in this upcoming election? I'm going to go from right to left and bring this around. So we will go to Representative Bullock, Representative Cephas, Representative McClinton, and then Representative Lee. And try, y'all know, we coming up on almost tomorrow, so try to keep it brief, but go ahead.
Can I not follow the rules for one moment? I just want to say about the last question, and I'm acting like the candidates tonight. That
I was about to say, you're making me look back now.
I
You're
know.
making me look back.
Let me be quick. When the criminal justice system does not work, when it does not work, it hurts Black and brown communities from the beginning to the end, no matter what side of the criminal justice system you are on, whether you're a victim, whether you're a suspect. And so we need to fix the system. It is costly to us. And our communities are not safe, and our folks are over-policed because of it. And so wanted to say that. But as far as serving Black entrepreneurs, Black businesswomen, I think together we have worked really hard. I know Rep. Cephas, I'm going to take a little bit of your shine here, but she worked really hard to get funding specifically for some of those small business owners. And we were all proud to be able to support her during that process, that we were able to get grants that specifically targeted small businesses that were owned by Black and brown business owners. And that was a big lift. I would say personally in my own district, I support all of the businesses in my district, but have always highlighted Black owned businesses, Black women owned businesses, and every opportunity that I have, finding ways to support them, whether I'm personally using their services or contracting with them. I always do that, and I endorse Black owned businesses all the time on my social media. Sometimes I get shot at for doing that, and not to use that term, but people come at me and they're like, oh, why do you only support Black businesses? Because they matter, and they are the fabric of my community. And I think we need to keep doing that. And other than that, realize when you do when we have any policy that's about, whether it's unemployment compensation or small business grants and other, grants that go to our communities, we need to make sure that we are targeting those businesses that serve our communities as well.
Gotcha. All right. And next. Go ahead. Take it away.
Perfect. So similar to my sister rep, I'm gonna go ahead and take some personal privilege here and go back to the previous question. But I'll be quick.
Y'all get me now. Go ahead.
One issue around criminal justice reform that is adamant for the federal level to take up, because again, they set precedent when it comes to policy, when it comes to resource investment, is dignity for incarcerated women. One of the issues that we constantly talk about are Black women and Black individuals are at the highest rates in our country of going into our prison system. We all know that population are primarily heads of households. So as they go in, so do their families. We also know they go in with significant mental health issues. We also know that 80% of those women and those individuals are mothers, are again breadwinners. They have experienced some type of sexual, emotional, or physical assault. We also know that there is a significant number of individuals that are going into prison that are expected to give birth. The fact that we are locking up women and individuals that are pregnant is beyond belief. And I think it's going to be critical for this administration, if we talk about criminal justice reform, to really disaggregate the population, because again, the fastest rate of the population going into our prison systems is that population. So I do think that is going to be critical for the federal level. When it comes to female entrepreneurs, Black female entrepreneurs, again, that is another segment and population that is rising and is increasing daily. And one of the things that I think you get when you have Black women that are at the table making decisions, between myself and Representative Bullock sitting on the Appropriations Committee, we are the only Black women that sit on that committee. We take those issues to the table. Again, we recognize that even though Black women are the fastest growing in entrepreneurs, they also are the population that doesn't get resources to increase their capital, access to small business loans. And again, we saw what happened with COVID-19 with dollars going through banks. So, I mean, we all collectively fought to ensure those dollars were directed specifically for Black and Brown communities and not just put in a lump sum. So our small Black and Brown businesses aren't competing with the big box stores. We all heard about Ruth Chris, and I think it was the
wait, they're not sponsoring nothing. Nope. Go ahead, wrap that up.
Or somebody got to a significant portion of COVID-19 dollars. But I think, with the Black women that are in this conversation, that are on the screen, we are fighting tooth and nail day in, day for our Black women owned businesses. So I think we saw that with how we fought to direct COVID-19 dollars. So as Representative Bullock mentioned, we fought together to drive specific dollars into small businesses. We collectively hosted, sometimes heated, a conversation with our Black female beauty salon owners, where we literally had 100 talking to them every single week on what we need to provide for them during this trying time, but also how do we look ahead and ensure that they have that, not just that financial security that they need right now, but also the ability to grow. And I think these are conversations that are just not new. And I think some of our colleagues like to talk about COVID-19 as if none of these issues existed. We've known for a very long time the gaps in our healthcare system, the gaps when it comes to, again, supporting Black and Brown businesses. And I think it's going to be critical for us as we move out of this economy that, again, we're doing it from the bottom up and taking a hardcore look at how we address and grow Black female businesses post COVID-19, but again, not just to be sustainable, but to be able to grow to a point where it's life sustaining.
Gotcha. All right. And I want to gracefully pause there and just remind folks of the question. And especially as we get ready to get out of here, Kiwana asks, what have each of you put in place to support African-American female breadwinners during these times of uncertainty? And how will your actions help turn out the African-American female vote in this upcoming election? So Representative Lee, let's go to you. And then we'll close out with, of course, Representative McClinton.
Awesome. Thank you. I always plan to Mike Pence this one, like my colleagues did. So I will do that. To answer this specific one, I think thank you so much to Rep. Cephas and Bullock for kind of really talking about the importance of supporting Black women entrepreneurs and Black women businesses. That is incredible. The question also talked about just Black women breadwinners, and it is important to know that all Black women are entrepreneurs. And while we must support them, we also have to look just holistically at the Black women who are nurses, the Black women who are not in a union yet, but need union representation, the Black women who need a raise at the current job that they're at, the Black women who can't become an entrepreneur because they have so much loan debt that they can't take a risk. They can't take a financial risk, or they can't, or all the people who can't leave their job, their 9-to-5 job, because they need health insurance. So those are all the things that I'm working to implement, that we may unshackle and untether Black women so they can reach their full potential. So we all deserve a living wage, not a minimum wage. If adjusted for inflation, our living wage would be closer to $22 an hour right now. The fight for 15 is 15 years too late. We all deserve, as we know through this pandemic, every Black woman deserves paid family leave, that's paid sick and paid family. which means that when the pandemic hit and you couldn't take off from work to take care of your kid who was suddenly left from school, that's because our country has not afforded you that opportunity that every other, what we call developed nation in the world has. So that's something that we as a caucus, a Democratic caucus, are working on right now, which will be integral for Black workers. And Black women who we know are breadwinners. So that's what we're doing. And also just proud to have joined Rep. Cephas and our Dignity for Incarcerated Women package, talking about alternative sentences for pregnant women. When we went to Cambridge Springs, we met women who had just given birth in prison who could only stay with their baby for one day. We met one woman who her baby was in ICU and she had not had contact with the hospital in a week. She did not know if her baby was alive or not. That when we are talking about the inflation of Black women going into prisons, what we met there, we had a panel of 7, y'all. Was it 7 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
7 or 8 women. I counted. We asked them how many kids that they have represented there. They had 22 kids, 24 grandkids, and 2 great grandkids. That's a village, y'all. That's an entire
and multiple generations.
And multiple generations. That's a village of our community cut off from its source, whether it be their breadwinner, their mother, and we have to do something about that. Back to the last question, which would be my wrap up. I dare us to envision a society that is beyond the need for jail cells, cages, and police officers. I know that sounds radical, but it's not that radical when you think about the rest of the world and where we are. Why does the United States have the largest prison population in the world? It's because we are so accustomed to not having an equitable society that we can't imagine the day that we don't need police officers. We can't even imagine the day that we don't need to contain people in prisons. But I assure you, and I challenge you to believe that we absolutely can. A better world is possible. That's what we're fighting for. So I'm an abolitionist. Yes.
Go listen. I'm beyond honored to be in this moment, and I just personally have to salute Representative McClinton for even the invitation to be a part of such a clearly dynamic and just Black girl magic. And it's not really magic, it's just excellence. It's just us being who we are, showing up as we are in these spaces, in these places that we have not only chosen to be in, but also called to be in, and for you all elected to be in, which comes with its own set of standards and responsibility. And so, of course, it's only right that we close out this last discussion and question with Representative McClinton.
Thank you, everybody, for being here, for joining, and to all those who will play this back and listen while you're getting ready for work on Thursday.
Today.
So, yeah, it is today now. For me, when you talk about Black women and what's needed for heads of households and how we can be supportive, I have to start back to my time waiting tables. I waited tables my entire time in law school, made $2.73 an hour. And that is still the tipped wage in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania more than 15 years later. And all of my car payments and other financial obligations depended upon, of course, the flow of traffic, how people were feeling, and if they liked me, didn't like me, if I remember things, if I was quick. So when you think about who's making minimum wage and even a tipped wage in Philadelphia, the heads of households, we are predominantly ran by Black women. When you think about the businesses in all of the city, only 2.5% are Black owned in all the businesses in all of Philadelphia. 2.5%. So in terms of what we're doing several things. Of course, in the capital, we are saying one fair wage, not just a raise on the $7.25, but we're saying everybody should be able to count on what their check is, regardless of if anybody shows up or if there are new COVID protocols. I mean, people need to be able to make a living wage and take care of their households, because contrary to popular opinion, folks who are making these lower wages are not teenagers in high school in a summer job. They are heads of households. I shared a small snippet of a documentary on my Instagram last night, and I got so many comments just in the story, people saying, what? You know, here's this young Black mom in Philly making $7.50, gets called to McDonald's and is told at 7:30 in the morning, once she got there at 7, oh, you cut. How is that reality? How is that life? And how are you able to provide for your family with those types of protocols and substandard living and substandard wages? We all must rise up and do something about it. I'm so appreciative to my sister reps, Representatives Cephas, Bullock, Lee, and of course our incredible host, sincerely Sarita, for joining this after party, the after party of the debate. We talked about the 26 days we have until the election, and we all have a lot of work to do. Some of us need to get filled in on the details. Some of us need to make sure we go through our phone book and social media and ensure everybody's registered to vote, because that deadline is coming up. It's October the 19th here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Some of us need to get to a satellite center, and my district is Tilden Middle School, 66 in Elmwood. You can register to vote. You can vote on spot with a mail-in ballot. Turn it in right there. Get a little sticker. I mean, they're open every day of the week. We have a lot to do, but everything is on the line for us. We cannot allow 4 more years of the hatred, of the division, of the mismanagement, of the lack of competence to deal with any of these issues that affect our communities. We cannot allow it. So let us rise up together, because we're in the ring. Whether we want to fight or not, whether we're tired of fighting or not, we're in the ring. Our families are in the ring. Our issues are on the line. The things that we need to be addressed, it's up to us. There's no one with a superhero cape. Not even these distinguished ladies on this panel have a cape on. Okay, so all of us are fighting. So join in the fight and stay tuned. And we're working hard to see if we can come back next week after the next presidential debate and have another productive engagement with all of you. Thank you so much. Everybody be blessed. Have a good night. Vote, vote, vote. Oh, sorry. Vote, 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 vote.
Nah, for real, y'all, go vote. We're not playing. Go vote.
It's not optional. It's not an option to stay home.
It's absolutely not. It's absolutely not. I think we're closing out and we're wrapping up. Ladies, thank each and every one of you. I don't know when we're about to get cut, but I do want to go down the line real quick. Let folks know, like for each of your districts, what do folks need to know about voting? Where should they be at? What's the website that they can just get the information they need? Representative Cephas, let's go with you, then Lee, and then Bullock.
So you can always go in the 192nd, you can always go to the city commissioner's website or office. But more importantly, you can call my office, and we're at 215-879-6625 if you want to go the traditional route. But if you want to, send us an email, send us a text, send me a DM, send me messages on Facebook. If you need a Biden-Harris poster or sign, don't go to my legislative office. Just hit me up in the comments or the DM on these social media platforms. But more importantly, we have a voting access center in the district, which is amazing. We did not have that opportunity during the primary. We didn't even have a drop box in the district, but this time around, we do have a location. It's at Overbrook Elementary School, which is along Lebanon Avenue. And to Representative McClinton, as she stated, it's an all access center where you can apply for your mail-in ballot. I technically had my mail-in ballot being mailed to me today, but because of a significant press conference, I was able to cancel that mail-in ballot, fill out a new application, get the ballot on site, and actually fill it out and turn it in. And I did get my sticker. So we have access in the 192nd. Come to the office if you have any questions, or if you have any political questions, just find a DM to hit me up on so we can direct you properly.
All right. And Representative Lee?
Allegheny County, you can go, like you can, and anywhere in Pennsylvania, you can go to votespa.com where you can apply for your, to be registered. You can apply for your mail-in ballot. You can check the status of your registration and your ballot, and you can check the status of whether or not you voted. You can right now, Allegheny County, vote in person at the Board of Elections in downtown Pittsburgh. You can go on site, you can request your ballot, and you can vote right there from today to Election Day. You can also now drop your ballots off at any of the sites, the drop-off points that we have throughout the city, which has certain days that I cannot give you. I can tell you, Mon Valley, we do not have a space, which is a shame, but we're working on that. And of course, you can vote on Election Day, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. See you there.
All right. And Representative Bullock.
Great. Thank you. First, to our amazing moderator, Sarita. Let's give her a round of applause. And for those of you who don't know, we refer to each other as sister reps in the house. And that's really powerful because we know that we got each other's back. It's our own village when we're in Harrisburg. And so thank you to my sister reps for joining me tonight. Summer Lee, she already put out votespa.com. If you're in Philadelphia, we have one specifically for you, philadelphiavotes.com, that is on the screen right now. If you are in my district, we don't have a site directly in our district for voting access because you're close enough to City Hall where you can go to the commissioner's office, or you can go to the Leo Corus Center on Broad Street on Temple's campus in North Philadelphia. So thank you all for coming out and spending this time with us this evening. I'm so excited. Can't wait for next week. Sister Reps, I love y'all. I love y'all. I really do.
Y'all, this is too beautiful. But we're gonna wrap it up because everybody needs a beauty rest. All right. Y'all just came out, y'all got all just doing what you do for an important cause, an important conversation. And it's been an absolute honor to be able to moderate, to join this vice presidential debate virtual after party discussion. Consider this the VIP section, y'all. This is when we had the real talk after the talk, right?
The after party, the after party,
right? And so once again, salute to Representative McClinton and to each and every one of the state representatives who have joined us for this conversation, to each and every one of you who are just all in the chats right now talking about vote. I love to see that energy. I'm sure each and every one of them do as well. Keep that same energy. Take it back to your families. Take it back to your communities. Take it wherever you can because November 3rd is coming. You can vote now, but we need to make sure also on November 3rd you are showing up at those polls or getting your mail-in ballot, your absentee ballot, and also registering to be a poll worker. Yeah, just know there's some opportunity there as well to get paid to be a poll worker. So votespa.com, handle that, go there. Shout out to the team on the back end that has been doing all the production and getting things done, holding it down. It's definitely been an absolute honor. And with that said, we are officially signing off. Ladies, I don't even know what we all gonna do waves with in case somebody want to screenshot this. We do send it up. I don't know, but just so you know, it's a wrap.
Good night. Hasta luego.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Night, y'all.